Today I'm going to speak about King Lear and the storm. King Lear's concept of an orderly and harmonious universe with himself as king at its earthly center is shattered when he imagines himself to be betrayed by Cordelia and when he is in reality betrayed by Goneril and Regan. His final break with his former beliefs and the beginning of his understanding of the real universe occur during the storm scene in Act 3. And the storm reflecting or appearing to reflect his chaotic state of mind. By examining in detail these opening lines of Act 3, Scene 2, Lear's two invocations to the storm and relating to them to the rest of the play, rather than assessing the play as a whole, will definitely enable us to appreciate Lear's psychology and of Shakespeare's complex and extensive thinking on the subject of nature from those taken by such critics as Danby, Wilsonite, and Hillman. Now let us explore the complex and extensive thinking on the subject of nature which appears in Shakespeare's King Lear. As I mentioned earlier, this field has already been covered quite thoroughly by such critics as John of Danby, G. Wilsonite, and Robert Hillman. However, while these and other commentators have approached the play from without applying their various critical methods with equal intensity to the play as a whole, our method will be to first examine in some detail some of the important passages in the play, and then to take a broader look at the rest of the play in the light of the conclusions drawn from our examination of the selected passage. Now, what we have chosen, the passages that we have chosen, consists of two important speeches made by Lear at the beginning of Act 3, Scene 2, the storm scene. And let me quote them here before we start the critical analysis of these lines. Lear says, I quote, "Blow winds and crack your cheese, rage blow your cataracts, and hurricanes spout, till you have drenched our steeples, drowned the cocks, your sulphurous and thought-executing fires, want couriers of oak-cleaving thunderbolts, cinch my white head, and thou, all-shaking thunder, strike flat the thick rotundity over the world, crack nature's moles, all German spill at once, that makes ingrateful man," I unquote. And then he goes on to say, "Rumble thy bellyful, spit, fire, spout, rain, no rain, wind, thunder, fire, are my daughters? I tax you not, you elements, with unkindness. I never gave you kingdom, called you children. You owe me no subjection, then let fall your horrible pleasures. Here I stand, your slave, a poor, infirm, weak, despised old man. But yet I call you servile ministers, that will with two pernicious daughters join your high-gendered battles against a head so old and white as this. Oh, 'tis foul," I unquote. Ignoring for now their meaning, let us just examine these lines for their rhythmic and tonal qualities. Though they are cast for most of the part, it is iambic pentameter lines, their rhythm is, as one might expect, very complex and irregular. Shakespeare uses, as critics have said, a number of devices at the beginning of passage to convey to the audience both the fury of the storm that is raging and the power of Lear's majestic presence. And the first line, with its sharp monosyllabic commands and the harsh sounds in close juxtaposition, if you analyze it linguistically, the hard culture as of crack and chicks, and the nasal sibilant vowel sounds of winds and cheeks, blow and rage, suggest at once the chaos that Lear has embraced, and also the cacophony of the storm, and establishes the imperative mood of the passage. And we should understand that he is not saying a prayer. He is not offering a prayer to the heavens, as one critic has already suggested. And in the first line, Lear commands, blow winds, crack your cheeks, rage blow, beginning the passage at a pitch set so high that it can rise no higher. And then you can see the release of tension, and then the descending rhythms of cataracts and hurricanes, which evoke as well the downpouring of rain of the storm. So this feeling of tension and release from tension is strengthened by Shakespeare's contrasting of the rhythmic tones set by the monosyllabic first line. And you can see there are 8 words, short words made of native origin, with polysyllabic and imported hurricanes and cataracts of the second line. So the impact of these 2 lines on an Elizabethan ear must surely have been very profound, as that of the tonal innovations in Wagner's music drama on the ear of a 19th century opera goer. So the dissonance of the first 2 lines moderates somewhat in the lines 3 to 5 fricatives give way to the vowels and nasal sounds of drenched and drowned, and the sibilants of steeple, sulphurous and fires. Sounds which suggest the release of both the storm's natural fury and the pent-up emotional fury of the king. And then the course of Lear's emotions can be followed roughly by observing in this passage the positioning and the frequency of his direct commands to the elements. And at first they come in quick succession like a series of thunderclaps. Blow, crack, rage, blow, then release of you, as I mentioned earlier, cataracts and hurricanes. Then comes the word spout. So the outpouring of feeling brought on by Lear's opening commands, you can see the effect of the other words, polysyllabic words, nullifying this kind of attention that is brought out by these lines. And then at the same time, the contrapuntal halting meter of thought and want, and especially oak-cleaving, that particular phrase, building towards the second emotional peak, climaxing in cinch my white head. So this pattern is reflected in the sound structure of these lines. Herein lies the kind of brilliance with which the poet handles or ties your emotions to the words. Several much briefer cycles of tension and release appear in the following lines. And the best example appears in the 7th line, where the climatic strike flat is followed by the falling rhythm of thick rotundity of the world. We feel most of the critics have pointed out that Shakespeare puts to use his device of contrasting native words strike flat with those of the foreign origin. And he's very skillful in positioning of the Latinate word rotundity in these lines. Not only does the word itself contrast sharply with its Anglo-Saxon neighbor, singed-head, all shaking, strike, and especially thick, but its low vowel sounds at once clash with the hard fricative sounds of its immediate neighbors and echo the earlier thunder of wand and thunderbolts. We can see in these lines further effective use of contrasting sound patterns are evoking the waxing and waning rage and fury of the storm, both in nature and Lear's mind.